Hello, I'm Lewis with IT Retail, and today we'll be talking about network readiness. So what network readiness means for IT Retail is when our technicians come on site to install the point of sale system, all of your Ethernet runs and termination have already been configured or installed from the endpoint, which would be the PC in this case, all the way to the server room, our network room, and the other endpoints there would be our network devices, including the router, switches, and they would either go into a Keystone jack in your wall, a patch panel, or just coming out of your wall from a hole with all the cables labeled so that we can easily plug them into the network devices they belong to. One of the big reasons and most important reasons to have your network ready for when we come on site to install is just because when we quote the time that it will take to install your systems at your store, we're not including our technicians going on site and running any extra cables needed to run to connect a back office, a lane, or an access point. So the time that's on there is basically us coming in, plugging in our network devices, plugging in the PCs, and all of the configuration that's needed to get this done. So it's very important to have your network ready so that we're not wasting any time or possibly extending the amount of time on site that it would take to get your store up and running with our point of sale system. Another important reason to have your network ready is due to Pci Guidelines, or the payment card industry guidelines, and they require networks to be segregated, and physical segregation is also very big, meaning that when that Ethernet cable is plugged into your point of sale lane up front, it's run directly to the switch or router of that network that's been configured for it on the physical device. So that's a big thing, to have your networks all segregated so that we meet those guidelines. There's lots more guidelines to it, but that's probably one of the harder ones to get done once you already have your system there. So it's better to just have the network installed correctly so that we can come in and go ahead and just plug in our devices and make sure that on our side the logical networking is taken care of. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a video to show you what it looks like when everything is properly installed and ready for us to come on site and plug everything in. Thank you. Okay, so here we have the three examples that I was talking about of what it should look like in your networking room. So example one is your Keystone jacks, and I have them labeled for wireless access point 1, 2, and 3, as well as server, back office, and the lanes. The second example is, just say you didn't have the Keystone jack and you ran each cable out of each one of these little slots. You would still want to label it. So this is access point 1, just like it's labeled here, 2, 3, same for server, back office, and lanes. And our final example is, it's okay to have all of the wires coming out of one hole in the wall is fine, as long as they're all labeled is the main idea, so that we can make sure that everything is connecting to these devices just how it is here. This is pretty much how it should look like. You want direct runs straight to your network devices. On this diagram I don't have these, but it's the same idea. It's going straight here. This cable is going straight here, and all those cables are doing the same thing. So for the first example, using the Keystone jacks, you will need some 3 and 1 foot cables to get that plugged in. So I'm going to go ahead and start plugging these in as if I was coming onto your site and I'm the network technician plugging in your network. And this is how simple it should be. So I'm going to start out by connecting the Isp router. So you go ahead and look for an empty port. They're normally yellow. You'll normally only have one port available, so you just go ahead and plug it in there. And that plugs into WAN 1, or P1, which is your wide area network that gives you internet. So go ahead and plug that in. Here I have the Pos Switch Cable, and our POS network is on P5 and P6 for this example, I'll put it into P6. And then I'll put it into port 8. And the reason why I like to put it in port 8, just for example, is I try to do the best I can to correspond. For instance, lane 1, I would want to put it in port 1, just to make it easier when we get to troubleshooting. So that plugs into 1, and then it goes into lane 1 on our wall. Next, I have the back office switch. So same idea. I'm going to plug it into port 8, and then into our back office network, which is P4. Next, I got the cable for office, our back office. So the back office and the access points all go onto the back office switch, and it's a PoE switch. So everything with the yellow label is power over Ethernet, which is PoE, and that's what powers our wireless access points. So since this is just a back office computer, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into 5, and then plug it into back office 1. So next, I'm going to plug in the wireless access point, and I'm going to plug it into 1 of the yellow labeled switch for the PoE, and this is what gives power to our wireless access point. And the last thing I'm going to plug in for this example, and this would be for Pro. If this was a market network, we would pretty much be done. But since this is a Pro setup, we're going to connect the server. And that goes into P3. And so this is basically how easy it is, and I think that probably took about 5 minutes or less just to plug it in. And that's how it should be when we come on site to install. And so just to give you a better idea, all of these are connected directly. So this is going straight to the access point that you have hanging on the wall. This is going straight to your server room. This is going to your back office where price changes are done. And this is going to each lane directly. Okay, so for our second example, we're going to go ahead and leave the switch connections to the router and the ISP connection, because these will still be set up this way. So the cables that are coming out of the wall, they're all labeled. So wireless access point 1, we'll just pull it out, make sure you have enough play when you're installing these, and go straight into 1. If I have 2 access points, I'll pull this one out and plug this in, and it just goes from there. If I have 3, I'm going to use 3. Okay, so next we have our server. I'll just go ahead and plug our server directly into the router. We have our back office 1, and so like I said, this will go into the back office switch on the non-yellow ports, and then back office 2. Go ahead and plug it into the empty port there, and then we're just going to go ahead and do our lanes. Make sure, like I said, you leave enough room to connect to your devices when you get this installed. Lane 2 and lane 3. And so this is also an example of the network being ready and easy to plug in. Okay, and so the last example we have here is having a run with all your cables coming out of one hole. And so all of these cables are connected directly to your point of sale lane, your back offices, and your servers. So in this example, we still have our ISP modem, our router, connected to the router. The router's going out to the office and the point of sale networks. So we'll just go ahead and start and make sure they're labeled, like I said, and this is all easy. So lane 1, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into my POS switch. Let's see, I got lane 2 here. Plug that in. And now I have my access points. So we'll go ahead and bring the access points over here. This is access point 2. So I'll put it in port 2. And you don't have to put it in port 1 or port 2 if it's POS 1 or back office 1 or wireless access point 1. It's just for a reference. So if it's possible, it makes it a little bit easier during support to say, okay, lane 1, it should be in port 1, for instance, but it doesn't always happen. And then back office goes into the back office switch. And then wireless access point 1. Make sure your access points are always plugged into the yellow labeled ports. And then for the final cable, it's our server, so we can go ahead and plug that directly into the router. And there you go. That's how simple and fast it is. Thank you for watching. I hope you find this video useful. If you have any more questions regarding IT Retail's network readiness policies, please reach out to your onboarding agent so we can set up a meeting and discuss in further details what needs to be done. Thank you and have a great day.